was a dueling day of court hearings because the Supreme Court justices, of course, weighed arguments on presidential immunity. How did that go?
Yeah, it was 3 hours or nearly 3 hours yesterday where the country's highest court heard those arguments in Trump's presidential immunity case stemming from his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Now, the question for the court is whether a former president has some measure of criminal immunity for acts taken while in office. So during the arguments, many of the justices signaled through their questioning that they're thinking far beyond the case at hand and focused on the broader implications of their decision.
This case has huge implications for the presidency, for the future of the presidency, for the future of the country, in my view.
The potential for criminal liability is taken off the table. Wouldn't there be a significant risk that future presidents would be emboldened to commit crimes with abandon while they're in office?
Former President Trump had this reaction to how the arguments went.
The U.S. Supreme Court had a monumental hearing on immunity and the immunity having to do with presidential immunity. And I think it was made clear, I hope it was made clear, that a president has to have immunity. You don't have a president, or at most you can say it would be a ceremonial president. That's not what the founders had in mind. They're not talking about ceremonial. We want presidents that can get things done and bring people together. So I heard the meeting was quite amazing, and the justices were on their game.
A decision from the court is expected early this summer.
Wow, as you can see, what they're doing to Trump is crazy. It's important to be prepared. So here's some things you can do when you cast your vote in November. The fist pump, because you're a winner. The yay. Say it with me.
Yay.
Do the dance. You know it well. Keep those elbows up now. Tell the obvious liberals in the voting line to go home to mommy.
Go home to mommy.
Don't forget to laugh at them.
Bye-bye.
Other things you can do when you cast your vote for Trump. Not get into any wars. Put money in your pocket and keep it. Deport the nearest illegal immigrant. Yes, you can arrest criminals now. And much, much more. So how will you express yourself at the ballot box in November?
The best is yet to come. The best is yet to come, ladies and gentlemen. What a inspiring meme, Jerry. They should play that. Should play that. And Donald Trump's ad. You should just have this as an ad that runs on cable access TV in all swing states. Ladies and gentlemen, today is Friday, April 26th, 2024. We are 6 months away from the November election, and it is free-for-all Friday on The Benny Show. Supreme Court poised to agree with Donald Trump. Former presidents are immune from prosecutions. It was a bad day for Joe Biden yesterday, and we have all the polling to prove it. New York City construction workers go viral for saying the exact thing that everybody thinks about Joe Biden, and Tom Fitton joins the show from Judicial Watch, the perfect guest to really break down what happened at the Supreme Court. A man who's petitioned the Supreme Court before, who lives right next door and broadcasts right next to the Supreme Court. He knows all the Supreme Court justices. He is the man. Tom Fitton on the show soon. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. We were in a event this week with Joe Biden, and I want to get that clip. Actually, I want to get that clip of Joe Biden doing the sign of the cross with abortion. It's so hysterical. It's so blasphemous. It's so grotesque. I don't know if you saw this week. It's been a wild week, but Joe Biden was in Tampa. He was here to promote baby murder. He was here to promote abortion. And Catholic Joe Biden, whose church teaches what the Gospels say about hurting children and how dangerous, how bad it is for your soul when you hurt children. Go read the Gospels. Christ says it's better for you to have a giant rock tied around your neck and you be thrown at the bottom of the ocean than for you to harm a hair on one of these children. Joe Biden, not only does he celebrate, Joe Biden just decides which parts of his faith he wishes to embrace. And the only parts of the faith he wishes to embrace are the parts that get him elected. Okay, as soon as public polling tweaks 51% on any issue, he'll abandon his entire faith. He'll burn it all to the ground. Joe Biden is a sick, blasphemous, hysterical monster. Listen to what he did this week.
And then we come back here to the state of Florida, where Ron DeSantis felt like he needed to run for president, and so 15 weeks wasn't good enough. We had to go to 6 weeks.
Biden does the sign of the cross, the sign of Christ, in order to bless abortion. It's demonic. In case you wonder if we talk a lot about spiritual forces on this program. In case you're wondering if this man is demonic, there it is. If you wish to do something about all of this, you should support Preborn. Preborn's network of clinics rescues 200 babies every single day. 200 babies that are truly miraculous. The work has only begun. By the time I finish the life-saving message, 2 babies will be aborted in the United States alone. Will you help stop that slaughter? Help support Preborn, that provides free ultrasounds to young expectant mothers so that they can see the miracle of life. Joe Biden doesn't see it. You can help us see it. To save another baby, dial pound 250. Say the word baby. That's pound 250. Say the word baby and donate securely at preborn.com/Benny. Preborn.com/Benny. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have some polling out. It's very interesting what happens when you just lie to people. You know, Joe Biden's been lying to people about his faith for a very long time. He says, I'm a Christian. I'm a Catholic. No, you're not, dude. I mean, you're not. That's not really for me. Okay, so it's not for me to judge his mortal soul. That's something totally reserved for God. But what I'm trying to say here is that you can't openly defy and desecrate your church like the high holiday Easter. You can't declare that transgender day of visibility, ban all religious iconography and symbolism from the White House on Easter. You can't openly mock your faith or abuse the basic teachings of life of the church and say you're a practicing Catholic. You're not. You're just not, right? You don't believe these things. You believe in your own power. And so there's enough of that. There's enough lying that you begin to actually erode the faith that people have in you. You begin to run out of people to lie to, right? You've seen this in Poisonous Liars in your life. You begin to actually run out of allies because you've burned everyone. Look at this recent polling about Joe Biden today. Joe Biden is less popular than any president in American history running at this time. This is let's go to the Gallup polling first here. He's the least popular president for job approval. Starting with Eisenhower there, you see 70% job approval, all the way down to Biden. George H.W. Bush was more popular. Jimmy Carter was way more popular, 10 points more popular. Joe Biden is running with the lowest job approval of any president in history, given the exact dates that he's running right now. So lining up his first term perfectly with all these other presidents. Nobody's trying to be unfair here, right? Even though Joe Biden totally merits us being unfair to him. Look at this recent polling here, ladies and gentlemen, from, what is this? I think this is it's a Kaplan poll. Here is swing state polling. Wisconsin, 10 points for Trump. Pennsylvania, 5. Michigan, 15. Arizona, +4. Obviously, if Trump wins, Joe Biden effectively has to win all of these states. Trump wins any of these states, suddenly the entire map is in total peril. Trump won these states and trounced Hillary Clinton by 100 electoral points in 2016 by winning all these states. So these are really, really bad signs for Joe Biden. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, this is what it looks like the new polling from Real Clear Politics, swing state poll. This is pretty awesome. There's a brand new thing that Real Clear Politics just opened up on their site. I encourage you to check their site. I really like Real Clear Politics a lot. Top battlegrounds, Trump versus Biden. These, are, of course, are the states that are in play. Unfortunately, California is just not in play, right? And could win a congressional district here or there, but it's just not in play. Just like Florida is just not in play for Democrats, even though Joe Biden was down here this week. You can see Biden trending perilously downward, actually, as Joe Biden starts cratering. You see Donald Trump, boop, bumping up. Boop. And what is that? What is that? There's some remarkable pieces of media that we've gotten from this week. And I want to begin, ladies and gentlemen, with this construction worker from yesterday outside of a construction site in New York. I want to start with the B block here, boys. Joe Biden, who would never walk on the street, right? When was the last time you saw Joe Biden get out of his motorcade and like talk to anyone? You never see that. In fact, we'll play for you what happened when Joe Biden actually did talk to a construction worker nigh on 5 years ago. It wasn't pretty. But the construction workers yesterday in Manhattan at 6 a.m. got a visit from Donald Trump. And they all left the job. They're building a skyscraper. They all ran off the job to go meet Trump. This is what it looked like.
Let's go, Trump!
So, obviously, a warm welcome in the heart of Manhattan from union workers. This is why they hate Donald Trump. We're showing you the polling. This is utterly terrifying. They've lost the country. They've lost young people. They've lost minority voters. They've lost union voters. It really, you tend to wonder, who's actually supporting the Democrat Party. Actually, ALX, grabbing that polling, there's only one group that is swinging wildly for Biden. I mean, big time for Biden. And it is single, unmarried, white women. That's it. So Joe Biden is literally the party. Joe Biden's core constituency is Karens. That's it. He is the party of Karens. The screaming lib that screamed at Donald Trump's inauguration, that is effectively the last remaining vestige of Democrat stronghold. That's it. That's it. That's the party now. That is officially, we've been playing that meme for a long time. It's been very funny. We have manifested that meme, and it is now officially the party of Joe Biden. Okay?
That opposition, Donald J. Trump is now president of the United States.
This is there you go. Officially, that is 100% the Democrat voting bloc. Now, here, ladies and gentlemen, are the polling. In case you're wondering why these masculine construction workers are out here supporting Trump, well, check this out. This is the polling broken down Republican and Democrat, married men, married women, unmarried men, and unmarried women. Okay? Married men, Republicans by 20 points. Married women, Republicans by 15 points. 16 points. Unmarried men, still voting Republican. Unmarried men voting Republican by nearly 10 points. Unmarried women vote Democrat by 30 points. There it is. There's your party. There's your Democrat Party. Feline, cortisol-infused, completely and totally, incapable, right, of the capacity to call out Joe Biden for the egregious lies and the assaults, actually, on women that has been a hallmark, quite frankly, of the Biden regime. But this is it. This is your official Democrat Party voting bloc. Here we go. This is the part. It explains so much, actually, quite frankly. This explains so much of how Joe Biden's pivot, the policy pivot here has been. It explains so much about the wild, crazed bend towards wokeism, and sort of the strange, sociopathic, frankly, pivot of the Biden regime towards this demographic. Because this is the only demographic that they got left. This is it. That's it. So Donald Trump says, given these numbers, we're going to make a play. We're going to make a play for the working class. We are going to make a play for the people who built New York and the people who built this great city. And he said so yesterday in New York City.
We're very close in New York, I understand, and we're leading in the country by a lot. Poll just came out a little while ago, as you saw yesterday, that we're up in every swing state and up by a lot in every swing state. So I think we're going to do very well, and we're going to make a play for New York. They said, I just heard there was a very good poll came out. Normally, a Democrat will win New York. Biden is the worst president in history, and we have some very bad people here, but we have the greatest people, and they're right behind me. And they all want us to run, and we're gonna run very hard in New York. New York, we have a good chance of winning New York, in my opinion, but we're going to give it a shot.
Donald Trump says we have a good chance of winning New York. He's going to give it a shot. He's going to make a play. Donald Trump is going to make a play for the people who built New York City and for the people who continue to build New York City. And those people, by the way, are showing up for Donald Trump. This is our base bomb of the day. Donald Trump, construction worker, getting asked by a TV news reporter, why do you support Trump? Trump or Biden? Here we go.
What's it like seeing so many Republicans in Manhattan, so many Trump supporters in Manhattan? Does that surprise you?
No, not at all. It's turning now. Trump's turn again.
What's your message to Joe Biden?
You.
Just play it. Just play it. Just make that the ad. Just make that the ad. The working class are furious. The working class are pissed. Young people are pissed. Young people are saying, wait a second, like this is the first generation where we are poorer than our parents in American history. This is the first generation. Hey, Alex, grab me that MSNBC professor, the New York professor. I cannot believe I'm going to do this, but I'm going to play a clip from MSNBC, a 90-second clip from MSNBC where you're going to be able to see like exactly the erosion that is happening. And I think maybe even unmarried women will potentially be voting Republican by the end of this. There is a erosion going on right now by design of the American dream, where we have been too profitable, too prosperous, things have been too good here, and now it is time to destroy the American dream. It is time to make sure that the middle class of America is choked out, that there is a massive new political underclass that lives off subsistence from the government, and that is totally and completely controlled by the apparatchiks of the Fed. That you must, that you effectively are servants to the government. And this is the design. And this design is creating a terrifying prospect for young people. You wonder why young people are breaking for Trump? You wonder why young people, like in these polls, like an enormous portion of the people polled are young people? Why every poll shows that young people are breaking for Trump? This is why. The American dream has been stolen for us, from us, by the people who are represented perfectly by Joe Biden. An uncaring, cretinous, lying group of greedy old bastards who will spend us into oblivion, who will max out and melt the credit cards as they're on their way out. Joe Biden in his mid-80s, Nancy Pelosi in her mid-80s, Klaus Schwab in his mid-80s, George Soros in his 90s, on their way out the door. Mitch McConnell in his 80s, Chuck Schumer in his 80s. On their way out the door, melt the credit cards, set the place on fire. Housing unaffordable, American life unaffordable, no job market, every single job goes to a criminal alien. The American dream totally destroyed. Nihilistic, nothing to look forward to. This is the vision that the Democrat Party has laid forth, and it is a shock to me that this even got broadcast on MSNBC. But here it is, ladies and gentlemen. 90 straight seconds of a professor from New York University who I think the last thing he would ever do is vote for Donald Trump, but making the case for Trump in absolute perfect aplomb. Watch.
For the first time in our nation's history, a 30-year-old man or woman isn't doing as well as his or her parents were at 30. That is the social compact breaking down. People aged 30 to 34, 60% of them in 1990 had one child. Now it's 27%. People are opting out of America. They're not optimistic about it. They're not having kids. Young people aren't having sex. They're not meeting. They're not mating. The pool of emotionally and economically viable men shrinks every day, which lessens household formation. So we have a real issue. Young people are enraged. So it turns every cut, every movement into an opportunistic infection because, quite frankly, they are just pissed off. They look up, they see wealth, exceptional wealth across my generation and people in certain industries, and they are really struggling. Their purchasing power is going down, and the incumbents create artificial scarcity on campus. We take pride in rejecting 90% of our applicants, so the incumbents who already have a degree see their degree go up in value. We get very concerned with housing and traffic once we own the housing. Housing permits are sequestered from young people. Housing prices have gone from $290 to $420 in the last 4 years. So a young person, a house, stocks that I don't own skyrocket in value. Let's have COVID relief and flush the markets and take assets way up, because if 1 million people dying would be bad, it would be tragic if I got less wealthy. And we're doing it on their credit card. Young people have every reason to be enraged, and every issue they see, they look up, they get angry, and they see someone doing better than them. And then every day it is speedballed in their face that they are failing, that they are not doing as well as everyone around them. We have lost the script. Our kids are more anxious and more depressed and more obese and more addicted. And we have made a purposeful decision to let this happen by ensuring the people around this table stay wealthy at the cost of young people.
I've never seen anything like that in my life. I want to reach out to that professor. Probably would never come on our show, but I would love to, I want to invite him on the show right now. What's his name? Who is that? What's his name? We put that up on X and went thermonuclear, went totally viral. Who is he? That's just such an incredible breakdown of what's truly happening right now. The American dream has been stolen, not exclusively by Democrats, in part by Democrats who cudgel Republicans. His name's Scott Galloway. He's a professor at New York University, I think, of economics. Scott Galloway just hit the nail on the head. Clinical professor of marketing in New York Stern School of Business, New York University Stern School of Business. Cannot believe that was even broadcast, because what that is a total and complete indictment of the professional political class of the uniparty and their designs on this country, which is to make this country a far worse place to live. And every single decision that is made, whether it's an open border or whether it's spending trillions that we don't have, or whether it's the interest rates that make houses completely unaffordable and life completely unaffordable for young people, the pushing of the poisons that stop young people from starting families, having children. 60% of couples age 30 had children just 2 decades ago. That's down to 30% now. And the country is facing total and complete collapse based on the poison of a political ideology that hates children, that hates life, that is selfish to its core, and that obviously is not about human flourishing. It's about human destruction. And they make that very clear. And so this is ultimately what we're fighting against. It's not a battle of left and right. It's a battle of good versus evil. It's a spiritual battle. How do you wish to live? What country do you want to leave to your children? It's a question I ask. I have 3 children. I'm not part of that demographic. I'm not part of that statistic. I have 3 children. We've started a business here. We're trying our best to hang on with our fingernails to the American dream. It's hard. It's never been harder. But I'm only one man. The tide is going so quickly in the wrong direction, and that's what we fight every single day on this program. That's it. That's what we're fighting. And God bless that professor. I really hope that Scott Galloway, clinical professor of marketing at the New York University Stern School of Business, comes on the program. I would love to do an hour with that guy and talk about what's going on. Trump's winning the youth vote. Poll after poll show that Donald Trump's winning the youth vote. That's remarkable. That shows Donald Trump making historic gain among minorities. And obviously, we've shown you Trump being greeted in the streets of New York by throngs of union workers. Here, ladies and gentlemen, is what greets Joe Biden when he goes to New York City. So Joe Biden was met with far more protesters than Donald Trump's ever been met with in New York. Joe Biden was met for his fancy fundraiser with Bill Clinton and Barack Obama with thousands of protesters thronging into the street. What does this say? Like what moment are we living in? How fake are our politicians? How rigged is everything? You can't find me actual Biden supporters. We just were at a Biden event here in Tampa. There were hundreds, if not thousands, of protesters against Biden, some on the left, some on the right. We couldn't find a Biden supporter. We walked the campus for hours. Couldn't find an actual Biden supporter. It's because they're doing things that are esoteric, that have existential threats to all of us, and we all feel that. And that's what we fight on this program. We do not fight physical battles, we fight spiritual battles. There's a spiritual dark energy in this country. So that is ultimately what we fight against. Now, this has happened throughout all history. Throughout all history, 1936, Stalin takes over in Russia. And as soon as Stalin takes over, he begins not to persecute or invade other countries. In fact, it was very isolationist in Russia for the first decade. He begins to persecute not minorities or various religions or various demographics of people. He goes directly and immediately towards his political enemies. The people who actually founded the political party, the Red Revolution, with Lenin, Leon Trotsky, becomes Stalin's number one enemy. And the first thing that Stalin does when he seizes power, because he's just more ruthless, not because he's smarter, but because he's more ruthless and evil, villainous, is he has a sham trial to declare Leon Trotsky an enemy of the state. That's the first thing Stalin does, is go after, the people he can kill, he does. And he just slaughters every one of his political enemies. If you're wondering who the bad guy is, if you're wondering who the bad party is, it's the people that are trying to criminalize political movements, who are trying to put their political enemies in jail, or worse. We've covered this entire week how they're trying to kill Donald Trump. They're going to try and assassinate Donald Trump. They're going to do it through legislation, if not more overtly. If you're wondering who the bad guys are, it's them. By the way, Leon Trotsky, this is the guy who should have been the leader after Lenin. He gets excommunicated to Mexico, and then Stalin still puts a bullet in the back of his head. Just hires an assassin to go kill him, right? Find him guilty of a fake trial, and then they go and they assassinate him as he's excommunicated. Isn't that remarkable? And doesn't that remind you of who's the Stalinists, right? Ask yourself that. Who are the Stalinists? Ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court yesterday had to hear a number of cases, had to hear a number of arguments, but the main argument that was heard yesterday at the Supreme Court was the argument about presidential immunity. And this was fascinating. We took the whole thing live. It was very, very interesting. But the argument about presidential immunity is really the core argument of whether the president can be president. Do we even have a presidency? Or is the presidency simply like what Joe Biden's turning it into, right? Like a performative job where you are a meat muppet for the forces inside of the federal government and globalist forces that wish to strip mine this country of all of its worth. That is what Joe Biden represents. That is why Joe Biden is losing. In every poll, Joe Biden is losing. In every demographic, Joe Biden is losing. Except for unmarried women. Okay? But I think even that can be eroded over time. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, this is what's at play. They want to criminalize Donald Trump for being the president. Donald Trump's winning of the presidency was so profoundly brain-breaking for them that they've decided to criminalize the fact that Donald Trump became president in the first place. Criminalize the people who want to keep Donald Trump as president. That's what they're doing in Arizona. And here, ladies and gentlemen, we have Donald Trump from this morning speaking in the courthouse where he's about to go sit in front of a Joe Biden donating judge and his daughter, who works for Kamala Harris and makes hundreds of millions of dollars in donations for the Democrat Party to lock Donald Trump up into prison. Who are the Stalinists? Ask yourself that. We're going to cover right now what happened in the Supreme Court. First, Donald Trump speaking, wishing Melania a happy birthday. It is Melania Trump's birthday today. Donald Trump has to spend this day in court, so he'll miss Barron Trump's graduation and Melania Trump's birthday. These people are monsters. They're Stalinists, and they're evil. And it's good to call out evil. Here we go.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. I want to start by wishing my wife, Melania, a very happy birthday. It'd be nice to be with her, but I'm in a courthouse for a rig trial. It's a rig trial. Terrible. But we're doing very well in this rig trial, and everybody knows it. Yesterday was a big day, but I do have to begin by wishing Melania happy birthday. She's in Florida. I'll be going there this evening after this case finishes up, this horrible, unconstitutional case. When it finishes up, we have a report that was just put out by House Judiciary on the District Attorney's Office. This was done by Congress, and so I guess it just came out a little while ago, a few moments ago. I haven't seen it yet, haven't read it, but it should be interesting. I think yesterday went very well in this courthouse. It should be over. The case is over. You heard what was said, and the case should be over. But you'll have to make that determination. I think we have a judge that will never allow this case to be over in a positive way. It's highly conflicted, the most highly conflicted judge I've ever seen. And yesterday, I think in the Supreme Court having to do with immunity, I heard the argument was brilliant. I listened to it last night. I thought it was really great. I thought the judge's questions were great. And all presidents have to have immunity. It has nothing to do with me. Absolutely nothing. All presidents have to have immunity. You don't have a president. Certainly not a president that the founders wanted. So we have another day of court in a freezing courthouse. It's very cold in there on purpose, I believe. They don't seem to be able to get the temperature up. It shouldn't be that complicated, but we have a freezing courthouse, and that's fine. That's just fine. Let them keep handing it out. There's a rigged trial. Thank you very much, everybody.
I love that statement. People are starting to run with that they're turning the temperatures. They're making the temperature insufferably cold inside of the courthouse. Why wouldn't they do that? Why not? What is outside of the realm of these Stalinists? There's nothing. They are in the middle of their own red scare, their own red purge. They are purging this country of their political enemies. That is the way that they think. And that hit a brick wall at the Supreme Court yesterday. Donald Trump's lawyer, John Sauer, in his opening statement saying, without presidential immunity, you don't have the presidency. This is such an important argument. This is such an important point to make, which is that the presidency, by its very nature, is the only body of government that is embodied by one single man. The judicial certainly isn't. Congress certainly isn't. The presidency is one man. That one man then carries the weight of every decision, as controversial as they may be, on his shoulders. If you create a system where that weight can be then prosecuted, either while in office or after office, then you effectively destroy that branch of government, because every president will be pardoning himself every single day and will be sued every single day, in office or out of office, because every decision can be a decision that will immediately land him in prison. There's not a single day that goes by in the life of a president where there's not a potentially criminal decision made by every president that's ever lived. And we'll get into those details. First, Donald Trump's lawyer, John Sauer, making this point.
Mr. Chief Justice, and may it please the court. Without presidential immunity from criminal prosecution, there can be no presidency as we know it. For 234 years of American history, no president was ever prosecuted for his official acts. The framers of our Constitution viewed an energetic executive as essential to securing liberty. If a president can be charged, put on trial, and imprisoned for his most controversial decisions as soon as he leaves office, that looming threat will distort the president's decision-making precisely when bold and fearless action is most needed.
Bold and fearless action. So I said there's not a single day that doesn't go by where a president doesn't take some action that could potentially be turned into a criminal act, right? Because it totally depends on your perspective. Ever heard of Operation Mongoose? Let's look up Operation Mongoose. Here we go. What is Operation Mongoose? Let's go ahead and check here. A Cuban project known as Operation Mongoose was an extensive campaign of terrorist attacks against civilians, covert operations carried out by the CIA in Cuba. It was officially authorized on November 30th, 1961 by John F. Kennedy, named Operation Mongoose, and was agreed to at a White House meeting on November 4th, 1961. The operation was run effectively a secret program against Cuba that aimed to remove the Cuban government from power and force the Cuban government to introduce intrusive civil measures to divert precious resources to protect citizens from terrorist attacks that we were running. So we were just running terrorist attack. We just created a terrorist organization. Here's the documentation. That was the plan. This might have happened in your lifetime. Plenty of people alive now that were like in the Bay of Pigs. Does it sound legal to you? Could you potentially see a lawsuit coming from orders like that? Yeah. Were they moral? I'll let somebody else decide that, right? I'll let a priest decide whether they're moral or not. Okay, we're gonna let God decide whether these things are moral. But I'm telling you that given this documentation of Operation Mongoose, somebody could sue. Oh, we're just gonna create we're just gonna create ISIS and run terrorist operations and slaughter a bunch of people, kill a bunch of civilians in a sovereign country. Clarence Thomas asked, hey, so should we be prosecuting presidents for stuff like this? Since we all know that this happened and it seems to be deeply immoral? Here's Clarence Thomas.
Over in not so distant past, the presidents or certain presidents have engaged in various activity, coups or operations like Operation Mongoose when I was a teenager, and yet there were no prosecutions. Why? If what you're saying is right, it would seem that would have been ripe for criminal prosecution of someone.
So, Justice Thomas, I think this is a central question. The reason why there have not been prior criminal prosecutions is that there were not crimes.
Oh, there were not crimes. Got it. We just started ISIS in Cuba, 90 miles off the shore of Miami. We just started ISIS there. Oh, speaking of ISIS, speaking of terrorism, how about when Barack Obama drone struck an American teenager without trial? This happened, of course, the ACLU, of all people, freaking out about it. The ACLU? Really? American boy killed by U.S. drone strike ordered by Barack Obama. Kavanaugh asking, are we going to try Barack Obama for murder?
How about President Obama's drone strikes?
So the Office of Legal Counsel looked at this very carefully and determined that, number one, the federal murder statute does apply to the executive branch. The president wasn't personally carrying out the strike, but the aiding and abetting laws are broad. And it determined that a public authority exception that's built into statutes and that applied particularly to the murder statute because it talks about unlawful killing did not apply to the drone strike. So this is actually the way that the system should function. The Department of Justice takes criminal law very seriously. It runs it through the analysis very carefully with established principles. It documents them, it explains them, and then the president can go forward in accordance with it. And there is no risk of prosecution for that course of activity.
Thank you for your...
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Bud Light. Mr. Voice of the federal government, which is just exactly perfect. I love it when people go straight out of central casting. This man, the voice of the federal government. yeah, it's okay for us to kill American citizens when we want to. It's okay when we do it. Oh, okay, so Donald Trump just said that the election was rigged and stolen and everyone should peacefully protest. That's what Donald Trump said. Oh, yeah, he should go to jail for the rest of his life. That's what he's arguing. Oh, let's see. FDR interned hundreds of thousands of Japanese people during World War II. Oh, are you Japanese? You go to a camp. You're going to go to a concentration camp. Is that legal, Mr. Joe Biden lawyer?
I mean, Mr. Sauer and others have identified events in the past where presidents have engaged in conduct that might have been charged as a federal crime, and you say, well, no, that's not really true. This is page 42 of your brief. So what about President Franklin D. Roosevelt's decision to intern Japanese Americans during World War II? Couldn't that have been charged under 18 U.S.C. 241, conspiracy against civil rights?
Today, yes, given this court's decision in Trump versus United States, in which Trump versus Hawaii, excuse me, where the court said Korematsu is overruled. I mean, President Roosevelt made that decision with the advice of his Attorney General. That's a layer of safeguard.
Is that really true? I thought Attorney General Biddle thought that there was really no threat of sabotage, as did J. Edgar Hoover.
So I think that there is a lot of historical controversy, but it underscores that occurred during wartime. It implicates a potential commander-in-chief.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, you could absolutely argue then that Donald Trump was facing an existential crisis, a war. Because what's going on right now in our country is a war. It is a cold war, but it is a culture war. It's clearly a war for the soul of the nation. But your argument is that it's during wartime, so we can just, it's during wartime, so we're just going to lock up entire races of people. This was, I mean, it was cretinous what this guy did. We made fun of the guy. Okay, we put up a bunch of memes. Put up the memes. We put up a bunch of memes of this guy. But like what he was arguing here was totally, unbelievably degenerate. He's arguing effectively that it's okay. Okay, so get a load of this. It's okay for FDR to lock up entire races of people. It's okay for Obama to do drone strikes. It's okay for drone strikes on American citizens. It's okay for JFK to create a terrorist organization, to create his own ISIS for Cuba. But it's not okay for Donald Trump to peacefully protest. And this is a great question here from Gorsuch. So what happens when a president peacefully protests? Huh? So what you're saying is peacefully protesting as a president is a crime, right?
Example, let's say a president leads a mostly peaceful protest sit-in in front of Congress because he objects to a piece of legislation that's going through. Mm-hmm. And it in fact delays the proceedings in Congress. Now, under 1512C2, that might be corruptly impeding an official proceeding. Is that core and therefore immunized, or whatever word euphemism you want to use for that? Or is that not core and therefore prosecutable?
Well,
without a clear statement that applies to the president.
It's not core. The core kinds of activities that the court has acknowledged are the things that I would run through the Youngstown analysis. And it's a pretty small set, but things like the pardon power, the power to recognize foreign nations, the power to veto legislation, the power to make appointments, these are things that the Constitution specifically allocates to the president. Once you get out...
a president then could be prosecuted for the conduct I described after he leaves office?
Probably not.
Oh, okay. Well, then what the hell are you doing to Trump? You know, there have been presidents that have obviously led protests, peaceful protests all throughout American history, right? Depending on where you wish to go back to. Like, Abraham Lincoln led a very non-peaceful protest of slavery. You going to prosecute the guy? The asinine levels of human degeneracy that you wish to, that this guy had, the amount of pretzel twisting. Oktoberfest in Munich, Germany, has less pretzel twisting than Mr. Dweebin yesterday. And these were our, they had up a photo of Mr. Dweebin that was apparently his official photo. We were able to find some others online of Mr. Dweebin in past experiences with also, Mr. Dweebin very upset when he had his Bud Light sponsorship canceled. Very sad. Very sad. Poor guy. Really poor guy. Can you hear it? Thanks for letting me drone strike another American. Joe Biden would never talk with that kind of senility. So, yeah. The whole thing was such a sham, was such an absolute Titanic nightmare. And that is actually exactly what it was called by Jonathan Turley on Fox, saying, let the Titanic sink. These people are sinking themselves. We played you the polling. We showed you what the American people are thinking. We showed you that this isn't working with the American people. This isn't working. But now they're too far down, just like the communists always do. They bit off too much. Now they have to just like continue the course because they can't just course correct now. They can't pull out of the dive bomb. So let the Titanic sink.
Well, they're doing a good job, largely allowing the case to collapse on its own weight. You know, this case thus far is about as good a model of prosecution as the Titanic is a good model for navigation. I mean, I don't understand why they would start with Pecker. In my view, he's disastrous. You know, first of all, I'm speaking as a criminal defense attorney. Most good prosecutors, if they know that the criminal defense attorney is going to bring up something damaging, will bring it up themselves. And the most damaging aspect of Pecker's testimony is that he did the same thing for a wide variety of celebrities. I mean, that is.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the Titanic is going down. We have the data to prove it. Check this out from a screenshot from CNN. The number of charges, if true, are irrelevant to Trump's fitness for presidency. Now, the hush money payment. They're going in reverse. Can we zoom in on this? They're going in reverse. This is CNN reporting. The hush money, so from a year ago versus now, far more people are saying, by orders of magnitude, 10, 12, 7 points are saying this doesn't matter. This stuff is garbage. It's all going in reverse. There's nothing where they've been able to change Americans' opinions to the side of Donald Trump doesn't deserve to be in office more because of these prosecutions. They're all backfiring. Do not mock God. I'll just say it, man. The American people are still a just and moral people. We still have what it takes to fight in this country. And we still have some incredible leaders who are calling this stuff out from 1,000 yards. And one of them is Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch, who's been right on this issue. Tom Fitton joins the program now. Tom, thank you so much for being on the program. You went complete beast mode yesterday on X, talking about how these oral arguments in the Supreme Court played out, and how much of you thought it was a really good day for Donald Trump. I thought so too, as we listened to it live. But I'm no professional. You certainly are a legal professional. Can you explain to me, Tom, your takeaways here?
Well, I'm watching your show. Am I going to get banned from Australia?
Too many memes.
I mean,
we got to put him up.
Mr. Dweebin. Tell if that was the Australian Prime Minister or
this is Mr. Dweebin from yesterday.
No.
Yeah. I mean, listen, this is just a photo that he took at the White House during Easter, during the Easter celebration.
What they need to do, it seems to me, to be fair, but let's presume there's a good faith argument, right? And you're trying to convince people who are skeptical that this is a serious principled issue that can be fairly applied across the board. And you may recall last week's Supreme Court hearing, our oral arguments about the what was the argument about? the issue of extending the laws related to destroying evidence to obstructing an official proceeding, right, to January 6th. And then you hear it again this week. It's all about Trump. Don't worry about anything being expanded because this is so unique. It will never happen again. In fact, never before in American history you had the lawyers say for the Biden regime yesterday that has their president committed a crime while in office. No, he's never committed a crime that implicated his official conduct. Now, that shows you, and it will never happen again because every other president in the future is going to follow the rules and they'll have attorney generals who will tell them what to do. It kind of highlights the absurdity of it in a way that's dramatic in the sense it highlights the focus is about Trump. This is about getting Trump and don't get in our way. And all your other questions, and that's why it's kind of this internal collapse as they couldn't survive the questioning by even mildly skeptical justices. I mean, these weren't tough questions. These were the sorts of questions that would obviously come up. And oh no, look, a president murdering and assassinating an American without due process, that's constitutionally protected and can never be prosecuted. But a president disputing an election must be prosecuted, and right now. And to me, that kind of highlights that it's all politics. And the Supreme Court had a political show yesterday, and we'll see. Hopefully, in the end, they rule the right way. And I'm thinking, Benny, that most of the cases that have been pursued, or most of the cases that have been pursued, are going to die. Certainly the January 6th election case up here, the Fannie Willis case, I think it applies similarly to state law. And the other big issue is the documents case in Miami. Did he make these decisions to take documents when he was president of the United States? If then, how could they second guess him under this theory, or prosecute him for it?
You went thermonuclear yesterday on X with this post, Biden regime to Supreme Court today. Obama assassinating in America and is perfectly legal and could never be prosecuted. It's remarkable. This guy also, Dweebin also defended like internment of Japanese Americans during FDR.
Yeah. It's
Operation Mongoose.
Don't worry. It's all protected. There's never going to be a Tom Fitton who raises questions about this and wants to prosecute him for similar crimes in the future, because that's all been settled. It's all been settled. It's only Trump that will ever be prosecuted. And the Supreme Court obviously can't buy that and won't buy that. And I'm guessing that you're going to get liberal justices sign on in part to what is to be a historic smackdown of the abusers in the Biden regime. And they're abusers. They're not lawyers. They're not prosecutors. They call themselves lawyers and prosecutors. They're abusers. They're thugs. They're abusing their powers entrusted to them by the American people. They're supposed to be working for us, the taxpayer. And they're misusing their office to deprive Trump of his civil rights under law. Can they be prosecuted now? Doing this case? Because that's their theory of going after folks disputing the election. Oh, your case has failed in court. You're going to jail now. Because those cases should never have been brought. This case should never have been brought. I tell you, in the end, someone like Jack Smith, Alvin Bragg, the rest of them, justice prevails, they'll be disbarred. They'll be subject to prosecution and investigation for what they've done to the body politic.
So interesting that you bring this up, Tom, because Jack Smith is somebody who was just bodied at the Supreme Court for his attacks on Bob McDonnell, and he lost 9-0 at the Supreme Court after he went and destroyed the governor of Virginia's political life. And so Jack Smith is used to actually being spanked at the Supreme Court and being humiliated. And the position of the government yesterday was that nobody would ever do that. Was that every prosecutor is this clear-eyed, upstanding, like iconoclast of just law and order. Yet he's defending Jack Smith, who was destroyed, who was ripped in pieces by the Supreme Court. 9-0. Jack Smith lost in his Bob McDonnell case. So the argument of the federal government is like totally specious. It's like it's so insulting, actually, that they're defending Jack Smith of all people up there.
And there's another issue: is Jack Smith either also, constitutionally valid in terms of his authority? Justice Thomas dared ask that question. God bless Justice Thomas. The Trump people haven't pursued it as aggressively as I would have. But essentially, they hired some lawyer from the street to prosecute someone. He hasn't been vetted by the Senate. U.S. attorneys and attorney generals are supposed to run, and senior officials who confirmed by the Senate, they have the authority to prosecute folks, and people they supervise directly on a day-to-day basis have the authority to prosecute folks. Where does Jack Smith get his authority from? Under their own regulations, he's allowed free reign.
So
fire him.
So you're saying that you're saying that this has the potential. You're saying that this has the potential to boomerang, and they never think through the end result consequences. I know, obviously, you've laughed a lot on this program about Harry Reid and getting rid of the filibuster for judicial nominees,
right.
And hot damn, did that ever spin around quickly on the Democrats? Then I don't think they've ever seen the end result here, which is that aren't they the ones interfering in an election now? Isn't this all going to flip back around on that?
Well,
isn't this direct election
if you're
interference?
them, what do you have to worry about? Who's going to come after you? Speaker Johnson, Jeff Sessions, Bill Barr.
Right.
There's no record that they're ever held accountable. Now, they may lose politically now and again as a result of their misconduct or their overreach, but it's a long ball game to them, and even the short-term victories are worth it to them, and they'll manage any situations in the future. And compare and contrast that with the conservative leadership here in Washington, D.C., or Republican leadership. It's all fear-based decision-making. Oh, if we do this, just imagine what might happen 15 years from now. Well, you don't do something stupid and reckless. On the other hand, if something is right in principle to do, you do it. And in this case, the principal thing to do, and something that Republicans thus far refuse to do, is to shut this down, defund Jack Smith, curtail federal funding to the jurisdictions targeting Trump locally in the state of New York and in Georgia. And, for instance, Alvin Bragg, can you imagine if Alvin Bragg were a Republican? He'd have to rent an apartment in Washington, D.C. to deal with all the congressional oversight. And every person who ever talked to Alvin Bragg about trying to jail a former president would be also down here. Republicans haven't done anything. And it suggests to me they don't care much about what happens to Trump.
Yeah. But say a bad word about Ukraine. Tucker Carlson says a bad word about Ukraine, and we make sure we come for him. Make sure that he's destroyed. We'll make sure that those people are destroyed forever, right? How dare you? But come for Donald Trump. You think that you think that liberal justices are gonna side?
I think they'll
in favor of presidential immunity here.
Yeah, I mean, there is an immunity issue that, if they say no to this, they're facing the prospect of, empowering folks who want to hold Joe Biden accountable, and Barack Obama and Bill Clinton and other former presidents. And it goes, there are other former presidents like Republican George W. Bush. The left wants to jail him. I mean, this is not unusual for the political opponents of a president to want to jail him by alleging illegal actions. Is a president misspending money that he's not authorized to spend? Is that a criminal conspiracy? I don't know. All bets are off if this goes the way Jack Smith is asking for it to go. And thankfully for the Republic, it looks like at least these justices are going to say no.
Yeah, I mean, the question was asked, I think, by Alito, so are you in favor of obstruction of justice for Gerald Ford for pardoning Nixon? I mean, that's looked at as one of the best decisions and one of the more healing decisions in our country, but you could absolutely have just straight up charged the guy because there was a criminal investigation into Nixon. And they didn't have an answer. The guy didn't have an answer to any of this stuff other than internment. Internment for Americans based on their race is good. Slaughtering of Americans via drone without criminal trial is good. Creating of terrorist organizations in Operation Mongoose, that's awesome. None of that's criminal. But Donald Trump peacefully protesting is criminal.
Right. And so, so your listeners understand it, but because the left says no one's above the law. Of course, we all believe that. The law, though, of the land, the supreme law of the United States of America is the U.S. Constitution. And the Constitution has set up a structure of government that includes 3 separate branches of government. And the executive power resides in the President of the United States. And so when he exercises that executive power, the only practical check on it is kind of restricting him by funding other constitutional other legislation that fits in constitutionally with the prerogatives of either the Congress or the judiciary, or obviously impeachment. So, what kind of and this is what protects Obama from exercising his prerogatives as president to assassinate an American abroad because he thinks he's a terrorist conspiring against the United States. That decision, however problematic it might be to many critics, is protected under our structure of government, which of course is designed to protect our liberty. And the left doesn't want to admit to any of this. It's all power politics, and they'll blow up the Constitution. They'll tear it apart. And I think one of the things that we should understand is that Biden has done so much to undermine the presidency thus far by taking away the president's rights and privileges that typically are afforded to presidents, taking those away from Trump. Heck, when he was a president, they were arguing he didn't have the right to fire people. He didn't have the right to protect the border. They never thought Trump had lawful abilities as president to be president.
That's such a great point. I mean, so it kind of underlies my final question for you, Tom, here, because nobody, I think, in their professional life has done more to expose the Clinton family than you. And Donald Trump, when running in 2016, created the most viral moment I think I'll ever see in presidential politics. I can't think of one more viral than you'd be in jail, right? Donald Trump commentary to Hillary Clinton's face about the crimes, many of which Judicial Watch has exposed. Was it a mistake to not prosecute Hillary? Well, I mean, was it a mistake to not just gloves off, we're going to go after in a legal way, set up a special counsel? Trump said it. He said he had clearly thought through it. I'm going to put up a special counsel. We're going to investigate you and your crimes. And I think that's part of the reason why Hillary played so nice, actually. Conceded, went to the inauguration. I think there was some politics.
Maybe there was a politically smart thing to do.
But I don't know. Your thoughts, would that have prevented what we're seeing here? Because suddenly they would have gotten a bloody nose, right? It would have been like, you hit me, I'll hit you.
Now, unlike the leftists, I don't think someone should go to jail simply because I think they did crimes, personally. Now, I think she did crimes. And I think she should have been seriously investigated. And if I were, if I could have been waving a magic wand, I would have, as you suggested, authorized a serious investigation of Hillary Clinton and then decide whether to prosecute based on that. And she was not subject to a serious investigation under the Obama administration. It was an investigation that was just enough to provide the appearance of the fair administration of justice while essentially providing her political cover, while simultaneously working with her literally to try to put Trump in jail for treason.
So it was or was not a mistake?
Oh no, I would have had a criminal investigation of him.
Yeah.
And I don't think he ruled that out ultimately. This was just another example of his loser appointees and the deep state pocket vetoing and not doing what they were supposed to do. The president didn't say the Justice Department can't investigate Hillary. He never said that.
Yeah, I mean,
so they should have done that, and I raised that with them. They didn't want to do anything. They didn't want to do anything. In fact, the folks running the Justice Department at that time were actually protecting her, fighting us in court as we were trying to get what accountability we could get through the FOIA process over these crazy emails, this crazy email misconduct.
That is remarkable. So you're saying that that Jeff Sessions protected Hillary Clinton?
Oh yeah, yeah. And and I hate to say I was right. Well, actually, I don't hate to say it. I kind of like to say it. Anyone who says I hate to say they're right, they're probably lying. But look, they're trying to put Trump in jail for beating Hillary up in New York. It's all about the 2016 election. So that for the deference that Trump gave to her rhetorically and the corrupt cover-up that the Justice Department gave to her, in return, Trump gets a threat of jail. He's being held as a political hostage up there, all to try to make it seem like he stole the election from Hillary. It's never. I mean, they're telling us to get over 2020. They're trying to put this guy in jail for beating Hillary, literally.
The saddest dinner I ever had in my life was a dinner with Ted Cruz, where he described what he would have done as Attorney General, and he was in sincere consideration, and how different the country would have been with a strong Attorney General. I truly, personally believe that may be one of the biggest mistake. Actually, was having a weak Attorney General. Trump needed a very strong bulldog Attorney General, and in a second Trump term, I really hope that somebody like Ted Cruz is considered, who just guy doesn't give a shit, right? And is going to be able to actually deliver.
I mean, what Trump should do is not rely on the Attorney General position when he's elected. He should appoint a special counsel directly as president, direct the Justice Department to provide all necessary support or what other law enforcement agency so chooses, and have the special counsel investigate this national conspiracy involving the Democratic Party and the Biden regime and their allied elected officials in Georgia, Michigan, Arizona, New York, and over their conspiracy to interfere with our elections and deprive Trump and other innocents of their rights under law.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to see that happen, you should support Tom Fitton. You should follow him. He was just absolute banger, just pure gold yesterday during the trial. There's nobody who we wish to follow more during a moment like that than Tom Fitton. Tom Fitton, his organization Judicial Watch, is the only bulldogs left in Washington, D.C. that hold anybody into account, and they get win after win after win. We'd have to spend the next 20 hours to talk through all of the wins that Judicial Watch has had. Make sure that you support Tom, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that cover image. A sentinel watching over Congress.
That's right.
Look at that. It's a very Marvel.
Overwatch 24/7.
This is very Marvel look. This is very Iron Man of you.
The left doesn't like my pictures, and they don't like my politics.
God bless you, Tom. Godspeed.
Hey, thank you, Benny. Appreciate it.
Tom Fitton, the fittest there is. Tom Fitton is somebody who we've been a long time friend of the show, and he's just good. He's sound. He's just sound as a pound. It's so nice to have somebody who has professional wins under his belt. He actually knows what these fights are about. He's been fighting the Clintons since the early 90s. Tom Fitton has been in the trenches. So, can you say sound as a pound anymore? Is the pound sound? It's an old saying from 100 years ago when pound sterling was actually worth sterling, right? When it was backed by silver, backed by something. The dollar used to be backed by something. What was it backed by? Gold. What's skyrocketing right now? Because we're at a war footing. What happens every 100 years? What happens every 4 years? The fourth turning. War. And what is happening right now throughout the world? You're seeing now precious metals, the stockpiling of scarce resources. You should be part of that. Something that's not scarce is the dollar, where they just print trillions seemingly every single day. Ladies and gentlemen, invest. Invest with my friends at Allegiance. Allegiance Gold can really help you out the last 2 to 3 years. There's been no better bet than gold. You can check the markets. Don't gamble your financial future away. Invest in something that is solid. Sound as a pound. You used to be able to say it. You can't say it anymore. Go to protectwithbenny.com today. Call 844-66-BENNY. Right now, get $5,000 in free silver with qualifying purchase. Don't get fooled, ladies and gentlemen, by the wild markets out there. Everything is overinflated. You were looking at a bubble unlike anything we've ever seen. Protectwithbenny.com today. That bubble's going to go pop, by the way, as soon as the 2024 election. Take it to the bank. As soon as the 2024 election's done, bubble's going to go pop. Okay? Speaking of somebody who went pop, 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 or could have gone pop, 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 do you know that Kamala Harris, Secret Service, is in absolute shambles? It's an insane story. Female Kamala Harris service bodyguard who brawled with colleagues previously filed $1 million general discrimination lawsuit against Dallas Police Department. Okay, so what's going on here? This week, there was a little blip of a story that we caught, but nobody else did. But Kamala Harris's, like the shambles of Kamala Harris's Secret Service. Apparently, there's a Secret Service agent who tackled their special agent in charge and did so with a loaded firearm, with a loaded gun. So this is Kamala Harris's, according to the reporting, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion hire on the Secret Service, that with a loaded firearm began brawling with other agents this week. The armed Secret Service officer assigned to the vice president was removed from duty after she got into a physical fight with fellow agents on Monday when Kamala Harris was inbound. So imagine this. The vice president, like separate Kamala Harris from any of this, okay? So the office of the vice president is about, the next in line to the presidency, ooh, chills down my spine, is about to like board a plane, and the Secret Service agents that are there to protect him or her are punching each other on the tarmac with loaded weapons in like ready to be drawn. That's what they're doing while the protectee is like ready to arrive. Protectee's just standing there. What shambles, ladies and gentlemen. What a nightmare. The agent began fighting fellow officers on Monday morning and appeared to be a Joint Base Andrew, Maryland, before the vice president arrived for a planned trip to Wisconsin. Real Clear Politics identified the agent as Michelle Hersheg, 43, female agent on Harris's security detail. Now been revealed that Hersheg had previously filed a gender discrimination lawsuit against the city of Dallas in 2016. Her lawsuit alleges that Hersheg was retaliated against after she reported sexual harassment for the Dallas Police Department. So again, like this kind of stuff, like you shouldn't be rewarded. You shouldn't be rewarded with promotions for bad behavior. This is insane. I mean, what will happen to this agent? The initial suit claimed that the department tolerates unprofessional behavior, such as fraternization. So this person is clearly woke. They're woke. And they were hired by Kamala Harris's Secret Service because apparently because Kamala Harris needed more diversity. Here's the result.
Primetime's learning more about the Secret Service agent who went on a wild rampage at Fort Base Andrews this week. She was supposed to be protecting Kamala, but other agents ended up needing protection from her. Secret Service sources tell Real Clear Politics the agent was acting weird from the get-go. But things took a turn when she snatched a senior agent's phone and starts deleting his apps. He got it back, but things got worse. She reportedly started mumbling to herself and throwing tampons at another agent while screaming that they're going to burn in hell. They told her she was being removed from the assignment, and then it got worse from there. She then chest bumped the commanding officer, tackled him to the ground, and started swinging. She was armed the whole time, by the way. She was taken away in cuffs, and it turns out this wasn't her first issue with a superior. In 2016, she sued the city of Dallas, where she was a cop. She felt retaliated against after she blew the whistle over an alleged sexual assault. She wanted $1 million, but the judge dismissed the case twice. So how'd this woman get on the VP detail? Some agents pointing to DEI. The Secret Service pledged to make women 30% of the force by 2030.
Tale as old as time. Ladies and gentlemen, you should hire people based on their merit their mental stability, if they're going to be holding firearms for a living, that should be it. That should be the single qualification. I mean, honestly, I got to tell you, like, if there is a single place in America that you should be hiring people based on merit, it should be the Secret Service. That, I mean, it's hard to think of something. Maybe the guys who, like, launched the nuclear weapons? I don't know. It's hard to think of something like a tier that's higher than that. Surgeons, airline pilots, the Secret Service, the people with the guns that are there to protect, like the people we elect. That should be the threshold, ladies and gentlemen. But we don't live in a sane world, and it doesn't matter the consequences, even for the people who are pushing these insane policies. Adam Schiff's luggage was stolen in San Francisco, forcing him to attend fancy dinner in casual wear. Oh my. Oh my. California Rep. Adam Schiff, who's running for Senate, found out firsthand in San Francisco crime when his luggage was swiped from his car in a parking garage on Thursday, forcing him to attend a fancy dinner, according to report. The Democrat who is running to replace Senator Dianne Feinstein in the Senate was in the city for a few days, had his parked car in a downtown garage before a gathering of supporters in San Francisco. But before the dinner at Restaurante Roca, he fell victim to a car break-in, losing his bags. Oh, wow. Where have I seen this before? Oh, yeah, because it just happened to us in San Francisco. The police here in California have had their balls cut off and have no capacity to actually do any police work. And so people feel... What? In the middle of filming, we heard a loud smash. You guessed it. We were the next statistic.
What just happened? Is my backpack? Is my backpack gone? Oh. Dude. Are you serious?
Luckily, we had ALX inside of the car, and ALX physically fought off the robbers by saying, "Give me the f***ing bag and get the out of my car."
Serious? Yeah.
100% serious. Wrestled this bag from his arms.
Did you see the guy?
He had a black mask on and a hood. That's all I saw.
Oh my God.
They pulled up right there in a car. He got out of the back seat, smashed the window, tried to get this bag, wrestled it away, and then I said, "Get the f*** off." And then he did.
Yep. So, how long? How long until these policies affect you in your city? Vote smart. Vote for the people who are in favor of humanity. It is super important, and it is a final little point I'll make on this. We've talked a lot, obviously, about our San Francisco trip. Final point I'll make on this is you will promote something in your society. What do you wish to promote? There's only two options. You're going to promote human flourishing or human destruction. You're going to promote one or the other. The easiest way to do this is your parks. Every city has a park. There's probably not a single city in the country that doesn't have some type of park or public area. Those parks are meant for children and families. That's the point, because children need to get out, run, and play. They have a lot of little energy, and they need to burn it off. Is your park for children? That's the question you should ask yourself. Especially if you're a parent or a moral person. I don't care if you don't have children. Are the parks in where you live, are children able to play on those parks? Or are those parks taken over by homeless vagrants with knives and needles, piss-stained pants, defecating all over everything, laying on the benches, sleeping under the swings? That's happening all throughout the country. And the people in charge are making the decision that instead of promoting human flourishing and the families, the parks are actually for the vagrants. Instead of giving the parks to the best parts of society, our children and our future, we're going to give them to the worst parts of society, the most worthless parts of society. We're going to give our precious public areas that we pay to maintain to the worst, not the best of society. Do not live in places like that. That's what's become of San Francisco. San Francisco used to be a glowing, vibrant, beautiful city. There is still, to this very day, like no city in, I think, the world that is more geographically gifted. It is a geographically gorgeous city. And it's lost its soul. And everywhere we went in San Francisco, there was just depression, chaos, and empty storefronts, and darkness, and filth. And they've given their city over. They've decided to promote one, not the other. They've decided that they are going to give over into human suffering and not into human flourishing. And it takes strength to promote human flourishing. It does. You've got to have strength. You've got to have guts. You've got to have balls. You've got to have a system of order where police officers or fathers or parents kick the bums out of the park and say, not here. Not here. This park is for the children, and they're not going to play amongst your filth. And until that happens, people like Adam Schiff are going to continue to suffer under the. Just earlier this week, the the home of the Los Angeles mayor who supports defunding the police and zero cash bail, like her house was broken into by one of the criminals she released on the street. Adam Schiff gets his stuff stolen by one of the criminals. We got our stuff stolen. Not sure where we're going to go back to San Francisco. I'm like, we're done being robbed in San Francisco. This like happened like 3 times now. We're done with it. But that's the question you need to ask, ladies and gentlemen. And it's really, really important. How were we able to capture all that? How were we able to like get all that information up and out from San Francisco? And we have more reporting coming. Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile made sure that we stayed connected out there, that we were able to call the cops, right? Very important. They keep us connected on the road. They're the company that obviously makes our show possible when we are on the road, when we are traveling, and when we were doing like a considerable amount of like fast-paced movement. Ladies and gentlemen, also, speaking of movements, we are a part of the Freedom Movement, and Patriot Mobile is too. Patriot Mobile is the only Christian conservative wireless provider in the country. They do support you, and they do support not funding leftist causes that are going to destroy this place. And so you should support Patriot Mobile. You should switch today. Make the switch. Go to patriotmobile.com/Benny or 972-PATRIOT. Get free activation when you use the offer code Benny. Join me today. Make the switch today. patriotmobile.com/Benny. Okay, Ask Benny. The Ask Benny segment. Do we have a stinger? I don't think so. We're going to make new stingers. We're making new stingers. We're going to do a round of new stingers, ladies and gentlemen. Ask Benny anything. Oh, and ALX, this is the squatter video. I want a video for one of the questions. This is a squatter video. It's in the shorts chat. Squatter video from Detroit. There's an interview with a squatter from Detroit. One of the questions today is out of squatters, and this is a perfect interview. With a squatter in Detroit. It's fantastic. You're gonna love it. Or not. What does Benny say Trump time is? Enlighten me. Okay, so Trump time, according to Trump's team, who we communicate with, who we were on the phone with before the show, actually. Trump's team says Trump time. What does Trump time mean? Trump time is the way that Donald Trump makes decisions. So when we say that Trump's going to decide on his VP in Trump time, this is the way that Donald Trump makes decisions. He makes decisions with his gut, and he makes decisions based on the energy of the moment. And it's very much like based on the guy's impulse and his experience and being in the public eye and the entertainment eye for the better part of the last 50 years. You know, Donald Trump's been a celebrity for 50 years in this country. And so in Trump time, and when we talk about Trump's decision making on the VP, don't believe any of this fake news, because it's fake news that Trump's made his decision. No, everybody has told us, including a lot of different interested parties, that this decision hasn't been made yet, and that Trump's going to make it in Trump time. So he's going to get to June, and he's going to feel the energy and look at sort of like what his favorite decision, like what his favorite candidates have been doing, and he's going to make that decision. He's going to make a gut decision. So there you go. Question number 2 from Kathleen Johnson. Could you find out more about illegals squatting in houses? Yes. So Marxists run the country, and they don't believe in private property. Private property is one of the first things that Karl Marx says we must do away with to usher in communism, along with the family and along with religion. So what's under attack right now? The family, religion, and private property. Here's a remarkable clip from Detroit where a reporter in Detroit interviewed a squatter. See if you can pick up on the really special thing that's happening here with this squatter. Okay, so the squatter's taken over somebody's private property. Who's funding it? Watch.
I left my house, say for a month.
And a half.
And a half. You think you would be entitled to move in there?
Well,
take my stuff?
Well, it's a lot of, I'm not the only one that is squatting. It's a lot of other people on the block, if you want to be technical, you know, and a lot of people encouraged me to do what I'm doing now.
But she wants her place back.
Yeah, but I had put a lot of work in here, and I spent a lot of money. I am on a fixed income.
Is that power hooked up legit there?
My power is...
That's not legit.
It's not legit.
No, you stealing a bit of power.
I am blessed.
What do you do for a living?
I receive Social Security. I don't have
What
no
happened?
secrets.
Disability?
Yes.
What's your ailment?
I'm not going to say.
No, that's her right.
Oh, okay. Got it. Did you pick up on the little Easter egg there at the end? You're paying for it. The beautiful final insult. You're paying for it. The destruction of private property rights, these squatters' rights, the destruction of actually the whole point of America. Go back to Jamestown. Like what? How was America even founded? How did you convince people to leave civilized and established countries and go to the middle of nowhere with like almost assured chance of death? Private property. In fact, Jamestown had failed. The initial colonies had totally failed. They thought they'd find gold in America. There's no gold here, right? Not the kind that you could find in South America. There's no gold here. There was no real establishment. Like the native tribes were really few and far between. They just stayed away. And so there was really nothing of value to offer people to come across the ocean. But you need people to work in your colony. So how do you even start a colony? They started offering private property. They started to say, if you work here for this amount of time, the Virginia Company was what it was called. The Virginia Company said, if you work in Jamestown, you'll get 60 acres and you'll become a landowner. And well, that's really special. And that then opened up the floodgates and people started saying, wait, I can get land. I can get private property. That's like the cornerstone of the country. There are multiple amendments in our Constitution about the rights of private property. Obviously, your Second Amendment, First, Second, and Third Amendment cover private property, along with the Fourth Amendment, all protecting your private property. So the erosion of that through squatters is not only obviously the erosion of the American dream altogether, but also you're paying for it. The final insult. You're paying for it. So sorry if you're watching from Detroit. Here. We're going to be speaking with Donald Trump in Detroit, actually, in just a little bit. It's going to be really, really exciting. I don't know if we have the promos for that. We should probably start. We're going to start promoting it on the show. ALX, go ahead and grab those. So we're going to be speaking in this summer with Trump in Detroit. It's going to be a really spectacular event. We're going to have, we're going to be doing some very, very interesting things, ladies and gentlemen, in the Midwest this summer for the RNC convention, and in Detroit for the People's Convention. This is the People's Convention. These are some of the speakers. Look at how incredible this lineup is. Amazing. You got Trump, Vivek, Carson, Bannon, Laura, Candace. Just awesome, ladies and gentlemen. We were just so honored to be on there, and we're going to be so honored to be in Detroit on June the 14th through the 16th. It is going to be rad. It's going to be rad. We're going to win. We're going to win. If you wish to join us, help us win, please support the Benny Brigade. Benny Brigade at BennyJohnson.com. Sign up today. Price of a Chick-fil-A waffle fry per month. That keeps us going. Keeps our incredible team of independent creators here roaring. We're punching way above our weight. Ladies and gentlemen, the way we can do that is because we keep our eyes set on what is actually true and good and honest and truthful in this dark times in this nation. Proverbs 3:5, our verse of the day. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In your own ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Some of this stuff doesn't make sense. Man, some of these things, can you imagine? Like, could you have imagined just like 2 or 3 years ago, Donald Trump facing 91 felonies? It bends the mind. It boggles the mind. That the Supreme Court has to listen to like these arguments where they're arguing that Obama could just murder any American he wants, but Donald Trump can't lead a peaceful protest. Got it. Doesn't make any sense. Destruction of private property, all of it. Doesn't make any sense. God asks us to lean on him with our heart and not on our own understanding, and that God will take care of us, okay? And we know that. That's why we can be happy warriors marching into the weekend with victory assured. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Benny. March with us and win. See ya.